Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Ainsworth, and I'm going to get into the essential skills to be successful in your next lesson on the quadratic formula. Oh, yeah, we're in Algebra 1 here, and we're going to get into all the different components to be successful on this lesson because it's not easy. All right, so let's go with skill number 1. Here we go. You're going to have to simplify an expression like this with positive and negative values. B squared minus 4ac. It's part of the quadratic formula. And I'll just give you a little preview. The quadratic formula is x is equal to, all right, negative b plus or minus a square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So what we're working on first is this right here inside the square root. You need to learn how to simplify expressions that involve this. Okay, so here we go. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to do quite a few. So let's take a look at 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2. All right, and you got to be really good at order of operations and sign numbers, okay? Dealing with positive and negative values. So we'll start easy first. We'll do something with all positive values. So when you do this, you always evaluate the exponents first, okay? 4 squared is 4 times 4 is 16. Minus, okay, there's a minus sign. 4 times 1 is 4, times 2 is 8. All right, you simply get 16 minus 8, which is obviously 8. That's pretty straightforward. So now let's have you try one, okay? Let's say, how about 5 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times negative 3, okay? Now notice I said be able to handle this with negative values. Okay, I just enter some negatives in here. And you have to be really good at your sign numbers. And anytime you see a double negative when you're multiplying, all right, not when you're adding, but when you're multiplying, you know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So a negative 1 times a negative 3, well, that's just a positive 3 right there. So I cancel out a pair of negatives in multiplication. And then I go for it, okay? Now 5 times 5, which is 5 squared, is 25. Always exponents first. Minus 4 times 1, which is 4. All right, times 3, which is 12. There we go. 25 minus 12, well, that's 13. All right, now you try one. Okay, try this one. 6 squared minus 3 times negative 1 times, I don't know, negative 4, let's say. Okay, pause the video. Go for it. Do a little pause and play action. No, I mean it. Pause the video and start, and just instead of just copying notes here, work with me and pause and play through the lesson, all right? Try it first, then press play when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to assume you did it. So we have 36 minus 6 times 6 is 36, usually, especially on today, and then today it's 36. And then I'm going to cancel out the double negative here, all right? You could have canceled out first here. You could have done that too. It doesn't matter where you see the double negative in multiplication. You can always cancel a pair of negatives out. All right, and then 3 times 1 is 3, times 4 is 12. Okay, so this is equal to 36 minus 12, which is 24. All right, all right. Okay, now how about this one here? Let's try this one. How about 7 squared minus 5 times negative 2 times 3? All right, pause the video and try it. Okay, so let's practice. Okay, so here we go. So we cancel out the pair of negatives here. A negative times a negative is a positive, so we're going to add and not subtract. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 5 times 2 is 10, times 3 is 30. So this is 49 plus 30, which is 79. Okay, next one here, try this one. Try 8 squared minus 4 times negative 5 times negative 2. Okay, how about that? All right, pause the video and give it a shot. All right, let's check your work. So 8 times 8 is 64. Now I'm going to cancel out a double negative here. So we have 64 minus, all right, 4 times 5 is 20, times 2 is 40. All right, what does that equal? Well, that's 24. All right, and that, right, my friends, is part of the quadratic formula. And you're going to see that all day tomorrow in our lesson 9 on the quadratic formula. Another part of it, since we're dealing with a square root here, is simplifying the root. All right, and we understand this. We understand that the square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b. So I have a phrase that we talk about in class, and I say every time you have a root that can be simplified into two factors, well, you got to split the root. Split the root. It's just it's not mathematical, all right, but it kind of makes sense. You split a single root into a product of two roots, okay, hence split the root. So what am I talking about? Well, let's take a look at a bunch of exercises here. So let's start simple. Square root of 8. All right, I know that the square root of 8 is the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. All right, that's what I meant by splitting the root into its factors. And everybody should know that 4 times 2 is 8, right? So square root of 8 is equal to the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, which is 2 root 2 or 2 rad 2. And we say this is root 8 or radical 8 or 2 root 2 or 2 rad 2. All right, the square root of 4 is 2. Let me write that down somewhere. The square root of 4 equals 2 because if you take 2 and square it, you get 4. That's the reason why, okay? All right, let's do another one. How about the square root of 27? Well, that's the square root of 9 times the square root of 3, right? Which happens to be 3 root 3 or 3 rad 3. Why? Because the square root of 9 has to be 3 because 3 squared gives you 9. Okay, you got to know your basics. All right, how about square root of 24? Well, let's see here. You could say square root of 2 times the square root of 12, okay? Bad choice right there because 12 is not a square and neither is root 2, so I wouldn't choose that. All right, I'd choose root 4 times root 6. Why? Because the square root of 4 we know is 2, and so we get 2 rad 6. All right, and let's do another one. So the square root of 12, well, square root of 2 times the square root of 6. You could choose that. 2 times 6 is 12. But neither 2 or 6 are square, so I wouldn't choose that. I would choose the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, or 2 rad 3. So you split the root into two roots, all right, and then simplify. It's a two-step process. Split the root and simplify. All right, and this is the simplify step right here. All right, you guys should know that square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2, and so on. All right, now if the number is bigger, like this one here, the square root of, let's say, 96, all right, then you factor 96 and you look for the biggest square. So you take 96 and you do the vertical factor table, and since it's even, you divide by 2. 96 divided by 2 is 48, divided by 2 is 24, divided by 2, which is 12, divided by 2, which is 6, divided by 2, which is 3, divided by 3, which is 1. All right, these are called factors, okay? All right, and we know that 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4. Well, you should know that a square times a square gives you a bigger square, so 4 times 4 is 16. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. You guys should know that. And then 3 times 2 doesn't produce a square, but it produces 6. So what do? Well, we have our factors right here. We take 16 times 6 and we use the factors there. So the square root of 16 times the square root of 6 gives you 4 rad 6. All right? You split the root into two roots and you simplify. This is the simplify step. We should know that the square root of 16 equals 4 because 4 squared gives you 16. All right? So you got to find the biggest square. You've heard me say it in previous lessons. Find the biggest square. Ooh, you hear that, guys? Don't be scared. It's windy outside. All right, I live in a windy area. Okay, skill number 3. Here we go. Simplifying a fractional expression with a root. Woohoo! Okay, here we go. All right. So what am I talking about? Well, check this out. Now, suppose when you use a quadratic formula in this crazy equation up here, right here, you're going to end up with some answers that you're not typically used to seeing, okay? Something like this, 8 plus or minus 6 root 5 divided by, let's say, 12, okay? So what I want you guys to do is look at the numbers here, 8, 6, and 12, and think about the numbers that are, or I didn't say that correctly. Think about what divides all of them, okay? I'm thinking GCF here, greatest common factor. And there's a couple different ways to do this, but I found that dealing with students over 25 years that this happens to be the easiest. So think GCF. All right. What divides 8, 6, and 12? What's the biggest common factor, the greatest common factor, and happens to be, well, it happens to be 2, right? Two, they're all even, by the way. All right, so 8 divided by 2 is 4, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So you get 4 plus or minus, just read from left to right, 3 root 5 divided by 6. All right, now let's get good at that. Now I want you to pause and play, okay? I want you to try it and then press the play button and check your work as you go. All right, so here we go. So 12 plus or minus 4 with 3 over 8. Think about, oops. Think about what the GCF is for 12, 4, and 8. And then divide all those numbers by it, okay? Now think about that. Pause the video, try it, and press play when you're ready. All right, here we go. 4 divides all these numbers, so we're going to divide them all by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And we get 3 plus or minus 1 rad 3 divided by 2, which happens to be 3 plus or minus rad 3 divided by 2. You don't need the 1 there, okay? Because 1 rad 3 is just rad 3. Okay, we know that's the case. All right, you don't need the 1, and I'm talking about this right here. We don't need that. So don't write it, because you're never going to see your instructors write it, because 1 rad 3 is rad 3, right? 1 times anything is itself. Now, there's sometimes you might have to simplify the root before you use this technique. So check this one out. So here on this one, just listen for a minute. You got to simplify root 75 first, because root 75 can be simplified. Not only that, if you look at the coefficients, 5, 1, the lead coefficient here in the front of the root is 1, and 10, they don't have a common factor. I mean, between 1, 5, and 10, there's no common factor other than 1, so you really can't do anything at this point. You have to simplify it. Okay, so you got to simplify the root first. And so we should know that, 3 times 25 is 75, right? So root 25 times root 3, well, that's just 5 root 3, right? So we have 5 plus or minus 5 rad 3, all divided by 10. And at this point, then you use my technique that I'm showing you guys here. You got it. You think, what divides 5 and 10? Well, 5, right? Okay, so we divide them all by 5. And write the result. So 1 plus or minus 1 rad 3, all right, divided by 2. There we go. Don't forget the 1 right there. Okay, 1 plus or minus rad 3. That number doesn't go away. Okay, 5 divided by 5 is 1, not 0. Okay, and let's do just one more, okay, just for funsies. Okay, let's suppose we had 14 plus or minus rad 8 divided by 2. You guys simplify the root, right? So it's going to be 14 plus or minus something, all divided by 2. Okay, pause the video and simplify the root. Come on, guys. Simplify this. Just don't listen to me and copy and take notes. Simplify the work and the root and work with me here. Okay? So root 8 is root 4 times root 2, which is 2 root 2. So we get 2 root 2 here. And then you start simplifying. Divide them all by 2. You get 7 here, 1 here, 1 here. And you get 7 plus or minus 1 rad 2, all divided by 1, which happens to be just 7 plus or minus rad 2. Because when you divide something by 1, it doesn't change it, right? Right. Okay. Okay, last skill in using the formula. So here we go. Okay, so you're going to have expressions that end up like this when using the formula too. So 1 plus or minus 6 divided by 4. Well, this new symbol here, called I say plus or minus, actually means plus or minus. Okay, so it gives you 2 solutions, right? Look at that, 2 solutions here. So one of them is when you add, and the other one is when you subtract, right? Ooh, God, that's not very hard. So you get 1 plus 6 is 7 divided by 4 is 1 3/4. And then you get 1 minus 6 is negative 5 divided by 4, or negative 1 1/4. So you're looking for 2 solutions here, guys. All right, now let's do a little pause and play action. You try it. 2 plus or minus 6 divided by 8. Okay, pause the video, get 2 answers. All right, let's check your work. 2 plus 6 divided by 8, 2 minus 6 divided by 8. 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 8, and so you get 1. 2 minus 6 is negative 4 divided by 8, so you get negative 1/2. All right, let's try that again. So you have 4 plus or minus 10 divided by 6. All right, pause the video and go for it. 4 plus 10 divided by 6. 4 minus 10 divided by 6. So you get 14/6 here. And that's 7/3 or 2 1/3. And this is negative 6 divided by 6 or negative 1. All right, last one. Let's try 9 plus or minus 3 divided by 6. All right, so let's get 2 answers here. Pause the video and go for it. Okay, so first answer is 9. 9 plus 3 divided by 6. And then 9 minus 3. Come on, Ainsworth, I'm thinking of the answer here. Divided by 6. That's the thing about being a teacher, is that you always think ahead. All right, so 9 plus 3 is 12 divided by 6, and that's 2. 9 minus 3 is 6 divided by 6, which is 1. So each time you handle this situation here where you have a plus or minus symbol, you have 2 solutions, okay? I mean, find 2 solutions there. There's a lot of stuff in here, guys, a lot of techniques, and you guys got to get used to the basic skills. All right, so now let's put the basic skills to work to get the quadratic formula. And once again, that is, you're going to see this in my next lesson on 6-9 here, okay, is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2 times a. You're going to have to memorize this. All right, and we will put it to use and solve all kinds of quadratics in my next lesson here. What's cool is that this quadratic formula works for all quadratics. It can solve anything. Well, the completing the square can too on my previous lesson. Factoring doesn't. Okay, factoring only works when it's factorable. But this right here, this quadratic formula solves everything. All right, I mean all quadratics, that is. All second degree equations. All right. Well, this is the end. Make yourself proud and use the video effectively and get good at the essential skills so you can be ready for my lesson tomorrow. This is Mr. Ainsworth. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.